Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take stacks of information and research and deliver the essential shortcut to being well-informed.
Today, we are hacking one of the biggest secrets to modern productivity.
And not just productivity, but balance and fulfillment too. If you feel like you're constantly running flat out, busy all day, every day,
Yeah.
but you feel like you're still just spinning your wheels.
And not really getting any closer to your biggest goals.
Exactly. Then this deep dive is, well, it's tailored for you.
That's right. Our mission today is to immerse ourselves in the 80-20 principle. You might also know it as the Pareto Principle.
And this isn't just about time management, is it?
Not at all. It's a fundamental lens. It's a way you can view effort, results, and investment in really every area of your life.
Yeah.
We're aiming to deliver a complete mindset overhaul.
Absolutely. We're providing the comprehensive roadmap for the goal setter who needs to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And the promise is built around this core idea of the principle.
Which is that approximately 80% of your significant results, your high-value outcomes.
The things that actually matter.
Exactly. They often spring from just 20% of your total efforts. So think about identifying that small, vital fraction of activity that truly moves the needle.
Okay, so we've got the sources, and we're going to trace the history of this disproportionate relationship, starting from its economic roots.
And then we'll spend the bulk of our time detailing the practical step-by-step application. We'll cover how to identify the important stuff, how to eliminate the rest, and how to implement this in your daily workflow.
And even how to use it for your health and relationships.
We're covering it all.
Ready to identify your high-leverage activities and ditch the rest. Let's unpack this and start our deep dive.
Let's do it.
So a lot of people today, when they hear 80-20 rule, they probably think of productivity gurus or some modern business strategy.
Right, some kind of life hack.
But the idea is actually rooted in empirical observation from over a century ago. It's a societal pattern first, and then it became a prescriptive rule second. So let's start with where the name even comes from.
So the principle is named after Vilfredo Pareto. He was an Italian economist, and he was making this specific observation in the early 20th century.
Okay.
And what's really critical for you to understand is that Pareto wasn't setting out to design a productivity framework. Not at all. His initial discovery was purely descriptive. It was focused on societal inequality and, resource distribution.
So it wasn't about to-do lists. It was about the actual structure of society itself.
Exactly. Pareto made this really powerful observation about wealth distribution in Italy. He found that roughly 80% of the land in Italy was owned by a disproportionately small 20% of the population.
Wow.
Yeah. And this discovery was shocking at the time because it just countered the commonly held belief that wealth was distributed, relatively evenly. It showed the staggering imbalance.
And what he realized, and this is where the concept starts to become universal, is that this kind of imbalance wasn't just limited to Italian agriculture or wealth. He started noticing it everywhere he looked.
That's the crucial pivot. He recognized that this disproportionality was a common pattern in the natural world, in manufacturing, in all sorts of human endeavors.
So things like what?
Well, it could be the size of pea pods in his garden or the distribution of income. The imbalance was just persistent. And then decades later, management consultants like Joseph M. Juran, they took Pareto's descriptive pattern and expanded it.
And turned it into the rule we know today.
They turned it into the generalized prescriptive rule we use today. The idea that 80% of results flow from 20% of inputs or efforts or causes.
Okay, that is a fundamental distinction. So Pareto described what is, Juran applied it to describe what we should focus on to be more efficient.
You got it.
All right, let's make this immediately actionable and relatable for you, the listener. Because 80-20 isn't like fixed math. It could be 90-10 or 70-30, right? It's more of a lens for understanding this imbalance in the world. What are some of the clearest examples the sources offer?
Okay, let's start with a simple academic example, but let's go a little deeper than just subject grades. If you have 10 academic subjects, the vital 20%, so maybe 2 of those subjects, are often the foundational concepts.
The core prerequisites.
Exactly. The ones that enable you to master the other 8. So if you focus intensely on truly mastering those 2 critical areas, your comprehension across the entire curriculum just shoots up. It's a high leverage move.
And the business world, that gives us the classic undeniable proof of this.
Oh, absolutely. Take a small business owner with 10 clients. If they really analyze their profit and loss statement, They almost inevitably find that two clients, that vital 20%, are providing 80% of the company's total revenue.
Or profit, or strategic importance.
Right. And here's where that insight becomes actionable. If you know that two clients generate 80% of the profit, you understand where the asymmetric return is.
So you don't just nurture those relationships.
No, you potentially offer them premium service, you allocate your best resources to them, and maybe you even restructure your entire business around attracting more clients like those two.
Okay, wait, I want to challenge that point a little bit. If we focus so much on the 20% of clients who generate 80% of the revenue,
Mhm.
what about the other 80%? Don't they feel neglected? I mean, they still provide some income.
Right.
Is there a danger of alienating smaller customers who might one day grow into those vital clients?
That's a sophisticated and a really necessary question. The sources suggest that the goal isn't total abandonment, it's proportional investment.
What does that look like?
It means you automate and standardize service for the 80%, what we call the trivial many. This is to maintain goodwill and efficiency. But you reserve your most expensive resource, which is your personal time, for the 20%.
So the 80-20 principle forces you to acknowledge that not all effort yields the same reward.
Exactly. You use automation for the smaller clients so that your top clients get bespoke human attention.
That's a great distinction. Automation for maintenance, human connection for growth. Now, this even applies to our social lives, which I think is often the most surprising application for people.
Absolutely. The source material really highlights this. 20% of the people you know might account for 80% of your psychological and emotional return. Your happiness, your support, your motivation.
And we all have a finite amount of emotional energy.
We do. And if we spend it broadly across dozens of, superficial connections, we just deplete our resources.
So the foundational mindset here is simple, but it's also revolutionary. We stop prioritizing activity and we start prioritizing impact.
We pivot from the trivial many, the 80% of busy work, emails, low-leverage tasks.
And we focus our entire attention on the vital few, the 20% that actually produces meaningful, measurable change and fulfillment.
And that foundation, that understanding that effort and reward are rarely linear, they're usually disproportionate, that is the start of achieving your goals with exponentially less stress and far more satisfaction.
Okay, so if the 80-20 principle is true, then the next, and I think the most crucial phase, is identification.
Absolutely. We need a systematic way to locate that golden 20%, that small fraction of activities, relationships, and pursuits that are responsible for the greatest rewards and genuine fulfillment in your life.
Because if you can't accurately define the vital few, you'll just default back to being busy.
Right, you'll just keep spinning your wheels. So this is where we stop generalizing and we start analyzing our own unique ecosystems. You have to become a ruthless analyst of your own schedule.
The source material lays out some core questions we have to ask ourselves when we're looking at our routines and goals.
Right. So when you're analyzing tasks, you have to evaluate them against your highest aspirations. Ask yourself, what are my 1 to 3 most important goals for this year?
Okay.
And then which specific tasks contribute most directly to achieving those goals? The key here is directionality tasks that actually move you forward, not just keep you stable.
For example, at work, the high-impact task isn't cleaning out your inbox. It might be writing that new strategic proposal or having the challenging conversation with a staff member that unlocks their potential. These are high-leverage activities because they have these asymmetric returns. A single action creates cascading positive effects.
And you have to remember the application at home, too. It's not about spending all your time with family, but making sure the time you do spend is high quality and deeply engaged.
So what's an example of that?
Well, cooking healthy, balanced meals 3 times a week might be your 20% effort that leads to 80% of your improved health and sustained energy. It's not about the quantity of hours, but the concentration of impact.
That concentration of impact is what leads us to relationships. It's so easy to feel obligated to maintain dozens of connections, but if we're serious about this, we need to identify those key relationships.
These are the supportive connections that enhance our lives, rather than drain our finite resources. And this evaluation demands a kind of emotional return on investment calculation.
So you're asking yourself what?
You're asking, who makes me feel consistently valued, motivated, and energized after an interaction? Who challenges me constructively and contributes positively to my long-term goals and happiness?
So you're filtering for friends, family, mentors, colleagues who genuinely uplift you.
And foster deep personal or professional growth. Yes.
We also need to evaluate our activities our hobbies, our leisure pursuits. This is where the trivial many often masquerade as relaxation.
That's such a good point. We should be prioritizing two crucial focus areas. First is learning and growth activities that expand your knowledge, master a new skill, or broaden your perspective.
And the second?
The second is relaxation and fun. But this means activities that genuinely refresh and rejuvenate you, offering a true mental break, not just acting as numbing distractions.
So if a pursuit doesn't contribute significantly to either growth or deep restoration, it's a candidate for elimination.
It has to be.
Okay, so the big question for you, the listener, right now is, how do I practically pinpoint this vital 20% in my own, messy life? We have a rigorous 4-step action plan for this identification phase.
Step 1. Track your time, tasks, and emotional state. This is the foundational diagnostic tool. For 1 full week, keep a highly detailed diary.
Every activity,
every interaction, the exact time spent, and this is the crucial part you mentioned, your honest emotional or productivity yield afterward. Did it make you feel effective, energized, drained?
I think people skip that emotional check-in. They just assume a task is important because it's on their calendar.
Right.
But if checking that calendar leaves you feeling anxious and scattered, that activity needs scrutiny no matter what it's labeled.
Absolutely. Which leads to step 2. Analyze and quantify. Review that diary with a critical eye. Highlight the tasks, the relationships, the activities that yielded the most measurable value or the highest level of satisfaction.
So you're looking for those spikes?
Exactly. Which 5 hours out of your 40-hour work week delivered 80% of your professional output? Which single interaction energized you for 2 days? You have to quantify these disproportionate returns.
Okay, then step 3, prioritize and codify. Take those highlighted high-impact items and create a formalized list. This is your refined, actionable list of the vital few, the things you must do.
And finally, step 4, take action and protect. You must immediately begin shifting your schedule, your effort, and your mental energy toward protecting and executing these vital areas.
So you're blocking out specific, uninterrupted time for these high-impact tasks.
You're actively nurturing those key relationships, and you're prioritizing the meaningful, restorative activities over everything else.
Let's look at Jane, the project manager, to illustrate this in depth. She was overwhelmed, but, very dutiful. She tracked her 40-hour work week, and she believed she was productive just because she was busy.
And Jane's analysis revealed just a stunning disproportionality. She spent a massive 10 hours, a full quarter of her work weekend, unproductive, reactive, or just informational meetings.
And these meetings had what kind of impact?
Near zero impact on the actual completion of her high-priority projects. They were pure 80% busy work.
Okay, but now contrast that with her 5 hours spent on proactive leadership tasks.
Right. Things like developing team training modules, providing specific one-on-one coaching, giving personalized performance feedback. Those 5 hours, they resulted in a 30% reduction in project delays and significantly improved team morale.
So that 5 hours was her 20%.
That was her 20%. It generated 80% of her managerial results. It's the definition of asymmetric return. She taught her team to fish, which freed herself up systemically.
And on the personal side, she noticed a single high-impact habit.
Spending an hour at the gym each morning. And while it cost her time, that physical exertion provided sustained energy, reduced her anxiety, and improved her focus for the entire working day.
So it was the 20% health investment that generated 80% of her daily mental clarity and well-being.
Exactly. Her strategic shift, based on this analysis, it was profound. She immediately instituted new boundaries. She declined all non-essential meetings, moving them to brief email updates, and she aggressively protected the mornings she used for staff training and focused strategic planning.
And she also fiercely guarded that morning gym time, treating it as a non-negotiable professional meeting with herself.
By shifting her focus to these vital few areas, less reactive time, more leadership development, more self-care, she significantly boosted her team's output, gained higher job satisfaction, and improved her personal health. This just shows the immediate transformative power that comes from identification alone.
Now that Jane has successfully identified her vital 20%, we have to talk about the second essential phase, elimination. We have to neutralize the trivial many.
Right.
The sheer volume of low-impact activities, digital noise, and administrative clutter in modern life is it's overwhelming, and it consumes the bulk of our time and energy if we let it.
The trivial many are the distractions. They're the notifications, the endless threads of email, the routine maintenance tasks that feel important only because they are urgent.
And they give us the illusion of productivity.
That's it exactly. They make us feel busy, stressed, and exhausted without actually moving us closer to our highest goals.
So let's revisit Jack, the software developer, who really embodied this tyranny of the urgent.
Jack was a talented developer, but he was completely drowning. He would start his day by checking email, which immediately led him down these rabbit holes of minor admin issues, compliance forms, and responding to non-urgent requests from multiple departments.
So he's spending how much time on this?
He would spend 4 hours dealing with coordination and communication and barely 2 hours on actual coding.
He must have felt stress because he was constantly busy. But I imagine he was also internally dissatisfied because his output, the actual software development that was his 20% value, was minimal.
He was prioritizing other people's agendas over his own high-leverage work. And Jack's transformation came when he realized that 80% of his effective output came from 20% of his activities, focused coding sessions and complex problem solving.
And he was able to transform his happiness and productivity just by implementing elimination.
Yes.
So how do we follow Jack's path? We have a rigorous step-by-step guide for eliminating the trivial many. And it starts with a cold, hard look at all the clutter.
Step 1. Identify trivial tasks. Go through your list of non-vital activities and ask the critical questions. What tasks don't significantly impact my top goals? Which commitments drain my time but offer little measurable or emotional return?
And this often means confronting social obligations or minor administrative tasks we do just out of habit or, fear of missing out.
Exactly. Sarah, in our sources, she identified that she was spending hours every week shopping online for unnecessary items. It was a time sink disguised as a relaxation mechanism.
And she realized the little burst of dopamine from clicking buy was immediately replaced by the stress of clutter and expense.
So she actively eliminated this habit, and she shifted her browsing time to focused reading instead.
Okay, so after you identify, step 2 is prioritize what matters by comparison.
Right. Once you have your list of trivial tasks, you have to actively compare it against your prioritized list of the vital few. If an activity doesn't serve the 20%, it must be minimized, scheduled, or removed. Your energy has to go to the high-impact items.
Step 3, delegate or automate. If a low-impact task is truly unavoidable, maybe it's necessary for compliance or some minimal maintenance, you have to find a way to shift the burden off your vital 20%.
Delegate it to a team member or use technology to automate it entirely. This is where we see true efficiency gains.
Like with Emma.
Yes, Emma loved painting, but was spending excessive time on meal planning and grocery shopping. She realized that while eating was necessary, the process of cooking was not her high-leverage activity.
So she started using a meal delivery service.
Exactly. And that financial investment was a strategic move that freed up 2 crucial hours every day for her art projects, her 20% personal growth activity.
And then step 4, which is the essential muscle you have to build to protect the 20%. Set clear boundaries and learn to say no.
This is where most people fail.
Why is that?
Because saying no feels confrontational, but it is the strongest possible defense for your focus time. You have to decline, defer, or push back against requests that do not align with your priorities.
Let's look at David, who worked in an open office and was constantly interrupted by non-urgent issues from colleagues.
He implemented focus time, where he wore noise-canceling headphones, and he set specific office hours for non-urgent questions between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. This clear boundary transformed him from a reactive firefighter into a proactive problem solver.
Okay, so beyond those 4 steps, we have to address the sheer volume of digital and physical clutter that pulls us back into the 80%.
Start with a digital detox. Our devices are designed to keep us engaged, but they are often the #1 source of the trivial many. Commit to a periodic reduction of time spent on non-essential apps. Use screen time monitors or accountability apps to enforce those boundaries.
The key is turning consumption from passive to active.
Exactly. And next is batch processing. This addresses the neurological cost of context switching. Every time you switch from writing an important report to answering an email and then back to the report, your brain suffers what's called attention residue.
You carry the context of the previous task into the next, which is a massive time waster.
So you group similar activities, emails only from 10:30 to 11:00 a.m., phone calls only from 2:00 to 2:30 p.m.
The writer's example for this is great. You schedule high cognitive work when you are freshest, which is usually the morning for most people.
And you reserve administrative low cognitive tasks like emails or logistics for that post-lunch slump. This maximizes the output of your best brain time.
And finally, don't underestimate the mental cost of physical decluttering.
Right. The source reminds us that clearing your physical space of unnecessary items reduces visual and mental noise. A tidy, organized environment reduces decision fatigue and directly supports a tidy, focused mind.
And this isn't a one-time thing.
No, elimination is not a single event. It's a continuous, dynamic process. The trivial many are always trying to creep back in. We recommend a monthly review. At the end of each month, review your schedule, review your boundaries.
And identify what tasks crept back in, what new distractions emerged, and what boundaries weakened.
By continuously sharpening your focus, you protect your 20% and maintain sustained high performance.
As we move into implementation, we have to just reiterate the 80-20 reframing of time management. It's not about how many tasks you check off.
It's about the quality and the impact of those tasks.
It's not about doing more things, but doing the things that matter the most.
And the key to smart implementation, therefore, is focusing intensely on the most crucial tasks that yield the most results. We have to move beyond just generalized to-do lists and apply more sophisticated prioritization techniques.
We start with a comprehensive to-do list, where you just dump everything out of your head. But the key is the second step,
Which is marking the tasks that align with your biggest goals and will have the highest long-term impact. And this is where the Eisenhower box comes in.
I love this tool.
The Eisenhower matrix is, well, it's arguably the single most powerful tool derived from the 80-20 mindset because it forces you to differentiate between the siren song of urgency and the quiet power of importance.
It forces intellectual honesty about where your time is really spent.
It does.
Let's break down the 4 quadrants because understanding why each quadrant exists is so important.
Okay, quadrant 1, urgent and important. These are true crises, deadlines, and critical problems. They have to be done immediately. An example would be a client security issue or preparing for a presentation that's due in 2 hours.
You'll always have some Q1 task, but if you live there, you are just reactive and stressed.
Constantly. Now, quadrant 3, urgent but not important. These tasks are often the single greatest time wasters. They feel urgent because they demand an immediate response. A ringing phone, someone else's deadline, a non-critical email.
And these should be delegated if possible.
Or batched and dealt with ruthlessly and efficiently. These tasks are the bulk of the trivial many.
Okay, then quadrant 4, not urgent and not important.
These are pure distractions. Checking social media feeds, mindless surfing, or organizing the paper clips on your desk when you have critical work waiting. These have to be minimized or eliminated entirely. They offer zero value.
But the sweet spot, the true location of the vital 20%, is quadrant 2, important but not urgent.
This is the quadrant of strategic planning, relationship building, skill development, and preventative maintenance.
And since these tasks have no immediate deadline, they are so easy to defer, yet they represent your long-term value creation.
Exactly. Investing time in planning long-term career moves, setting up automated systems, developing a deep skill, or dedicating time to exercise, these are all Q2 activities. An 80-20 manager spends the vast majority of their time proactively in Q2, which prevents Q1 crises from ever even emerging.
That makes perfect sense. By being proactive in Q2, you are fundamentally shrinking the size of Q1.
Precisely.
Beyond this matrix, we need specific methods for actively avoiding the time wasters that pull us into Q3 and Q4.
So first, we need to limit digital consumption, not just by cutting it out, but by scheduling it. Allocate specific short times during the day to check social media or email, rather than constantly reacting to every incoming ping.
Second, we have to address notifications.
Which are the neurological equivalent of someone tapping you on the shoulder every 5 minutes. Constant notifications disrupt focus and they trigger task switching. Turn them off entirely during your high focus periods to maintain intense concentration and reduce that attention residue.
And third, the practice of saying no. We talked about it during elimination, but in implementation, it becomes your active shield.
Saying no protects your schedule from becoming a dumping ground for low-priority demands, and by doing that, you're defending your Q2 time.
A really powerful technique that maximizes the efficiency of the 20% is batching tasks. We mentioned that context switching cost earlier.
It's the loss of time and cognitive energy spent trying to recalibrate your mind when you jump between different activity types.
So grouping similar activities eliminates this drag.
Right. Instead of answering a call, then drafting a document, then running an errand, you set specific blocks. You answer all emails and communications at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. You schedule all meetings on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. You create defined, dedicated blocks for deep work and for administrative work.
And we can boost productivity even further with automation and structured focus techniques.
On automation, look at any repetitive task that takes more than 5 minutes a day. If you can use email filters, scheduling tools, or even simple templates to handle that routine work, you free up your focus for the critical tasks.
And then there is the globally recognized Pomodoro technique.
Which is more than just a timer. It's a commitment device. It involves intense, focused work for 25 minutes, a Pomodoro, followed by a short 5-minute cognitive break.
The research behind this structure suggests 25 minutes is an optimal length for sustained deep concentration without significant mental fatigue.
And the short breaks aid in memory consolidation, and they prevent burnout. After 4 of these cycles, you take a longer restorative break. This structure ensures that even when you are working efficiently on what matters most.
Maximizing the yield of that focus block.
Exactly.
The ultimate synthesis of this whole implementation phase is the regular evaluation.
You have to assess your productivity methods weekly. If a system like batching stops working, or a task creeps into your vital 20% that shouldn't be there, you need to tweak the strategy immediately. This adaptability is key to sustaining the 80-20 lifestyle.
Now that we've established the external mechanics of 80-20, the prioritization and elimination, we have to look inward at the foundational personal elements.
Right, and the power of focus is the engine that drives your vital 20%.
Focus is the ability to concentrate intensely on one high-leverage thing, channeling all your cognitive energy like a spotlight. In a world of endless notifications and to-do lists, focus is your quiet rebellion.
And when your effort is scattered across multiple tasks, effectiveness diminishes exponentially. Think of it like intellectual dilution. But when you apply intense focus to that one high-impact task, you not only complete it faster, but you elevate the quality of the result.
Which in itself creates an asymmetric return.
Precisely.
Let's go back to the student example. If they try to study 3 complex subjects at the same time, moving between calculus, history, and chemistry every half hour, the neurological cost of that context switching guarantees poor retention.
But if they dedicate 3 hours of intense, focused work to just calculus, they absorb the material far deeper and they'll perform exponentially better. Focus is the force multiplier.
So how do we strengthen this crucial focus muscle? The sources detail some specific, actionable techniques.
First, setting clear goals. And the goals have to be hyper-specific and measurable. They should leave no room for ambiguity. So instead of, I need to get better at writing, you define it as, I will spend 90 minutes every morning drafting chapter 1 without internet access.
Very specific. Second, the active process of eliminating distractions.
This is physical isolation, moving to a quiet room, turning off all non-essential notifications, and using website blocking apps to enforce external discipline during your high-focus sprints. You are intentionally making the choice to focus easier than the choice to be distracted.
Okay, third, incorporating mindfulness and meditation.
This trains the brain to stay calm and resilient against internal distractions, which are often harder to control than the external ones. A simple 10-minute daily practice, just focusing on the breath and gently returning the mind when it wanders, systematically improves your ability to maintain intense, sustained concentration when it truly matters.
And fourth, using focus tools. This isn't just about blocking apps, but using things like ambient noise or organizational software like Trello or Asana to reduce the cognitive load of remembering small details.
Which frees up your mental bandwidth for the complex work.
This deep internal focus leads us directly to the next personal application, leveraging your strengths.
The argument here is straightforward. Your strengths, what you naturally excel at and genuinely enjoy, are almost certainly where your productive 20% lies. They feel less like work and they deliver much greater returns.
But first, you have to identify them. How do we move past simple self-flattery to true identification of our strengths?
You use 3 methods. First, reflection on past successes. Write down 5 to 10 major achievements and analyze which specific skills or natural talents enabled those successes.
Okay.
Second, seeking feedback. Ask 3 to 5 trusted people who know you professionally or personally, a mentor, a colleague, a close friend, what they see as your core differentiating strengths.
And third, formal assessments.
Right. Taking structured assessments, like the Gallup Strengths Finder, can provide a quantified, objective perspective.
Once you've identified them, you align them with the 80-20 principle. So if you're a natural communicator and a strategic thinker, but you're weak at detailed financial modeling, you prioritize networking, public speaking, and strategic planning.
The 20% that utilizes your strengths, and conversely, you systematically delegate or eliminate tasks related to your weaknesses. The 80% that drains your energy and yields mediocre results.
If you struggle with accounting, hiring a bookkeeper or using sophisticated automated software is a vital investment in protecting your high-leverage time.
We see this historical application everywhere. Think of Steve Jobs. He was not an engineering prodigy who coded the iPhone himself.
Right.
He leveraged his profound strength in design, intuition, and understanding user experience. He focused solely on that unique 20% while strategically surrounding himself with the best engineers to execute the rest.
And Oprah Winfrey is another perfect example. Her 20% was her ability to connect authentically with an audience, her empathy, and her unparalleled communication skill.
She focused on maximizing that core strength to build a media and business empire, and she delegated tasks that fell outside her zone of genius.
So finally, even the most focused individual leveraging their greatest strengths will fail if their environment is working against them.
Yeah.
We have to deliberately engineer a supportive environment.
And that's physical, social, emotional, and digital.
Let's start with the physical environment.
A supportive space is decluttered. Only essential items on the desk, reducing cognitive friction. It might include creating inspiration corners, a vision board, motivational quotes, pictures of past successes, and ensuring a functional layout where crucial items are within arm's reach.
Minimizing movement and time waste.
Exactly. Then, the social environment requires careful curation. Surrounding yourself with motivators and positive influences is essential. Seek mentorship from individuals who operate at a higher level than you currently do.
And actively establish accountability partnerships with people who share similar goals.
It makes the journey feel collaborative rather than solitary.
The emotional climate is often overlooked, but it's critical for sustained 20% output.
This involves fostering a resilient positivity through deliberate self-talk, actively managing stress through restorative practices like meditation or short walks, and developing emotional intelligence by practicing empathy and self-awareness.
To prevent that emotional leakage that drains focus.
Right. And crucially for the modern learner, the digital environment. Perform a surgical digital declutter. Unsubscribe from unnecessary emails, aggressively filter your inbox, and unfollow or mute social media accounts that primarily post negative or distracting content.
So the only content you should mindfully consume should be educational or inspirational, serving your growth.
By aligning your hyper-focused attention, deliberately leveraging your natural strengths, and building a supportive environment that serves your goals, you are creating the absolute optimal conditions for the 80-20 principle to flourish in every facet of your life.
We've moved from tasks to strengths to environment. Now we turn to the holistic application, beginning with relationships. If 80% of our happiness and emotional fulfillment come from 20% of our connections, then how we manage our social sphere is a core 80-20 strategy.
And this is truly about quality over quantity. The vital few relationships are the high-leverage connections, the confidants, the cheerleaders, the trusted advisors, the partners in growth.
These are the people who consistently inject joy, encouragement, and necessary constructive challenge into your life.
They provide the maximum emotional return for the time invested.
I have to come back to that earlier question, though. Doesn't this hyper-prioritization risk making our relationships feel transactional, where we're constantly calculating their ROI?
That's a key risk, but the principle, when it's applied correctly, actually achieves the opposite. It's not about calculating what you get, but focusing your finite time, where you can genuinely give the most and receive the most authentic connection in return.
So you're filtering out the surface-level relationships.
The ones that rely on gossip or negativity, yes. And you're freeing up the deep emotional resources needed to be fully present and supportive for the vital few. It elevates the quality of connection, making it less transactional and more meaningful.
So on the flip side, we have to manage the trivial many in our social circles. These are the acquaintances who might be neutral or even draining, demanding emotional energy or time without offering reciprocal value or positive motivation.
Managing these requires clear emotional and temporal boundaries. You limit the frequency of interactions, you reduce the emotional investment, and you understand that quality time with your vital few is non-negotiable.
And you have to be prepared to accept that some relationships have naturally run their course.
The inability to gently distance yourself from past connections is a major drain on present focus. Yes.
Let's revisit Sarah's social shift. She was dealing with a large circle of acquaintances whose interactions were primarily focused on gossip and negative comparisons.
And Sarah realized these were massive energy drains, pure 80% distraction. She consciously began spending less time with them and prioritized deepening her bonds with her three key friends, Jess, Mia, and Alex.
And she focused on quality activities, long, meaningful discussions, shared goal setting, and focused support.
Critically, she implemented a strategy to maximize synergy. They started a monthly book club. This transformed their social interaction from passive hanging out into an activity that actively contributed to their personal growth.
While simultaneously strengthening their relationship. It was a 20% investment with dual returns.
Exactly. And ultimately, the entire purpose of applying 80-20 across tasks, time, strength, and relationships is to achieve a balanced life. True success isn't just professional achievement. It requires maintaining harmony across all critical life areas: work, family, health, and personal growth.
And this is where the 80-20 principle is often misunderstood. Balance is not about giving equal time to work and family, which is often impossible given professional demands.
Right. Balance is about giving the proportional, correct amount of attention and care to the different vital areas, ensuring that the 20% high-impact activities in one area are not consuming 80% of the resources needed for another.
Let's look at specific 80-20 applications that create this harmony.
In professional life, Jane's strategic shift focusing on high-impact projects and delegating less important tasks allowed her to consistently leave the office earlier. Her 20% work output created 80% of the financial security, freeing up the remaining time for her family and hobbies.
For health and well-being, Sarah didn't try to become a perfect wellness guru. She focused on just a few key habits: daily running, 20 minutes of restorative yoga, and prioritizing vegetables at every meal.
Those few high-impact habits, the 20% focused effort, resulted in significant overall benefits in energy levels, sleep quality, and mental clarity, which is the 80% return.
In terms of emotional balance, Mark analyzed his stress. He identified that the 20% root cause was constant tight deadlines created by reactive commitments.
And by learning to plan projects 2 weeks ahead and rigorously saying no to non-essential commitments, he tackled the source of the stress, restoring his peace and emotional stability.
And finally, for personal growth, Lisa realized that while there were endless courses she could take, honing her public speaking skills would have the highest leverage for her career advancement.
So she focused intensely on that one high-impact skill, joining a speaking club and practicing, rather than diluting her schedule with 10 scattered low-impact certifications.
The central lesson here is that living the 80-20 principle is a lifestyle rooted in clarity, choice, and commitment.
It requires making conscious, sometimes difficult decisions to focus resources on what brings the most success and happiness, and thereby achieving true harmony and well-being.
This deep dive has shown that true, sustained success is not about the constant hustle or running flat out. It is about strategic focus and proportional investment.
By identifying the vital few and aggressively eliminating or automating the trivial many in every area of your life, you streamline your journey to achievement and fulfillment.
We encourage you to start small this week. Perform that one-week time audit. Find your professional 20% and your personal 20%, and then start saying no to the 80% that doesn't serve your highest goals.
This principle grants you the permission to be less busy and more effective.
By striving to find and protect your 20%, you gain clarity, focus, and fulfillment. But we started section 6 by saying relationships are a two-way street.
So here is the final provocative thought we want you to carry forward. By applying this principle to your own life, you achieve balance. But what if you make it a deliberate goal to be the 20%?
The source of powerful support, consistent uplift, and genuine encouragement in someone else's life.
Think about the power of being the vital few for the people around you.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.